The most dangerous voice you ever listen to is the one inside your head. Here's why. Our head often speaks untruths. It makes the problems bigger than they are. It drives us to worry and anxiety. And perhaps, most dangerously, it whispers the lie. I can figure it out myself. Have you ever said that to yourself? Oh, I can figure this out. I know I have 1,000 times. Well, I'll just YouTube this. Oh my goodness. Sometimes it helps. Other times it is devastating. I can tell you story after story. This one time we were trying to put a four-wheeler tire on the four-wheeler. I'm attempting to discover how to move this new tire onto a four-wheeler without a press. So I looked at every country boy out there who knew how to do it, and I did everything they did, and I could not get it done. It was just very tough. The ply on the tire was just not mobile. It was wintertime. It was just very tough. And that attitude of, I'll figure it out, it actually cost me more money than taking the tire and the rim and going to the tire store and letting them do it for me to begin with. You see, the tenacity and the grit that we have as business owners, it got the business off the ground. But the very thing that gave us momentum in the early stages, often what's holding you back right now. At some point in your business, every business owner reaches the wall that they can't break through. Up to this point, the raw hustle or the grit or the determination reaches us. But at some point, we reach this wall where, man, we just can't get through it. That's when the same voice that once served us will now start to sabotage us. I was talking with one of my friends this morning, and we were talking about specifically financial advisors. I said, it's fascinating to me that at around about $600,000-$700,000 in revenue, there's this mindset shift. Before then, it's like, oh yeah, we'll figure it out. We don't need any coaches. We're just going to podcast our way to it. But at about that point, it's like we're stuck. And we hop forward and we fall back. We hop forward and we fall back. Why? Because the same tenacity, the same voice that was in our head that got us to that point of success, it will hold us there. Here's how you know if that voice in your head is holding you where you're at. Do you feel stuck, frustrated, restless? Maybe you're working harder than ever, but you're not getting further ahead. Maybe you're looking, you're seeing, man, my peers are growing. They're scaling super fast. And it just doesn't feel right. You're exhausted, but you're unwilling to admit it. I was in one of our mastermind programs. And in this particular program, we have a few business owners who are sub $1 million. We have a few business owners who between $1 million and $3 million, and we have a few business owners who are over $3 million in annual revenue. So it's a really good mix of business owners in this group. And I made this statement that I wish you could have seen their eyes. I think there was about 7 of them inside this particular mastermind. And it's a small mastermind for intentional reasons. And I made this statement. I said, you know what's fascinating is that the business owners who achieved 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, we'll show in the framework, they won't argue, they won't fuss, they'll look at it and they go execute relentlessly. However, the ones who are in that 300,000, 4, 5, 6, 7, sub $1 million, they'll see it and then they'll start second guessing. Well, that can't work. That seems too easy. Oh no, I'm going to go back doing it this way. And they just stay stuck. There's an amazing dichotomy. One business owner says, this framework was proven. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go all in. The other one questions everything. The one who questions everything never moves. They pay the fees. They come to the coaching. They have the exact same coaching. But because their minds are lying to themselves, they believe that they don't need to follow the exact framework. They believe their knowledge alone will get them through the wall in front of them. They are overconfident in the fact they think, man, because I know this, because I have this credential, because I have this, I can do this. They'll say something like, I should be able to figure this out. If they did it, I can figure this out. It's interesting. It's interesting. I'm a faculty member at the Exit Planning Institute. I also work with a lot of certified financial planners. And as I see these academic style business owners, I'm fascinated in the numbers that puff themselves up with the earning of a credential. They go out and they start talking about their knowledge as if they know everything until they get questioned. As I was watching this dichotomy, I was seeing so many of these business owners earn this new CFP, earn this new credential, earn a new CEPA designation, and they refuse to get help. Whenever I tell them, the very first thing I did after earning my credentials was hire a coach that cost me $10,000 a month. Whenever I hired that person changed my life. They go, oh, no, I could never do that. The decades of watching CFPs, CEPAs, MBAs, And the business owners who puff themselves up with the knowledge, it explodes. It's amazing to me because when reality hits, they stop. I often say education without application leads to stagnation. What they do is they climb Mount Stupid with confidence, only to fall in the valley of despair whenever real world complexity humbles them. So as I was studying this from our new book, I ran across a fascinating study that I've seen talked about, but I dove deep into this on the Dunning-Kruger study, the Dunning-Kruger. And I want to walk through this episode on what their study presents and how you can prevent lying to yourself, to actually break through the resistance that you're looking at in your life right now and achieve the Deca-Millionaire status that you're trying to achieve. So two psychologists, David Dunning and Justin Kruger, what a great name, Justin Kruger, proved on their landmark 1999 study, which is now called the Dunning-Kruger effect, you can Google it yourself, is that there's a cycle that every business owner must face, every one of us must face and overcome. But the vast majority face a little bit of it and they never overcome. Here's how this works. Whenever we gain knowledge, it hits us like a drug. It's pretty amazing. It's like this dopamine hit. The most dangerous experts in the room are usually the ones who just discover they're, quote, experts. It's reality. I'm sorry I said it. That's what this study proves. So the one who just gets the credential, they're very dangerous. They think they know it, but they don't. It's crazy. The original study, it identified the bottom performers and they rated themselves above average. I remember a study years ago that talked about how many men think themselves are above average drivers. It's improbable for 90% of men to be above average drivers, but I remember that study was like, it was something that absurd. Like 90% of men thought they were themselves above average drivers. That's improbable. It cannot statistically work. The more we know, the more self-confident we are, especially those who just newly find out themselves are experts. However, the less you know, the less you realize how much you don't know. Man, this is wisdom, friends, applied. Whenever you see a graduate from school, they just come out. They're all puffed up with knowledge. The Bible says knowledge is vanity. There's a dopamine spike whenever we learn something new and we want to go out and talk about it. The Harvard Business Review even went further and they said that overconfident leaders derail teams faster. No wonder whenever you go to a conference somewhere, you read a new book or you get a credential or whatever it is that you're using to feed your mind, you go into your office and you dump on your team and they're like, oh God, here he goes again. What in the world is we going to do this time? Why? Because whenever you gain that knowledge, you have a dopamine hit and you're dangerous. I'm dangerous. That's why I have so many coaches in my life, because they help me apply the knowledge wisely. See, the first hit of knowledge feels like strength, but it's actually a setup to fall. My daughter completed her sophomore year of school last year. Now, for those of you who've ever had children, perhaps you yourself, whenever you went to college, do you remember your sophomore days? Maybe you have a child but knows in college. You have a sophomore. It's pretty interesting. They come home from college and they know everything. Daddy's all of a sudden dumb. They know everything. Maybe it's a sophomore in high school. They know everything. Every decade of your life will test your confidence, every single decade, and will expose you for whether you're grounded or hollow. I was talking to my daughter. I says, baby daughter, do you know what a sophomore means? You know what the word sophomore means? She's like, no, it means second year. I said, go look it up. And she came back looking at me like this puzzled face. She said, Dad, sophomore comes from two words, sophos, which means wise, and moros, which means fool. It literally interprets into a wise fool. Think about that. See, teenagers from about, let's say, 10, 11 to 19, we have this invincible mindset. We have this risk-reward brain. It's not fully developed. We can't quite control it, but man, we are invincible. If you don't believe that's the case, watch teenage boys riding a bicycle or watch boys being stupid. They will do some of the dumbest thing and they don't realize that there's a broken arm or there's a broken leg or worse. Then when we get in our 20s, we have unstoppable confidence. We're going to be the next Zuckerberg. We're going to blaze the trails in front of us. It's interesting that 50% plus of startups fall within the first 5 years. Why? Because of overconfidence. because we thought we had enough money, because we thought we had enough knowledge. And oftentimes in our 20s, that's where we end up failing at. Now, when we get to our 30s and 40s, man, we start facing life. My 30s and 40s rocked my world. It humbled me greatly. In my 20s, man, I was unstoppable. My 30s and 40s almost put me in. Holy Batman, it killed me. Family pressures, business pressures, financial pressures. I had so many blind spots. Oh my goodness, I can remember that was when I first hired my first coach. That's not uncommon. When we get to our 50s and our 60s, it's pretty interesting. There's a fork in the road. Some will double down on arrogance. I know it all. Others will seek counsel. What's fascinating to me is the number of clients who's engaging with our coaching program. Most are not in their 20s. Most are in their 30s and they face resistance. And it's like, I need help. I need help. Somebody who can think with me. We have quite a few clients who've engaged us for coaching to help us double their business value. And they're in their, late 50s, early 60s. It's fascinating to me because now they've reached a point where they have to. There's no retreat. They have to drastically change. They have to do something that's so uncomfortable that their 30 years of business or their 60 years of life, they've reached the point in their life where something has to change. And the way in which they process, they know is not going to get them the desired outcome, but they have decades of knowledge, decades of wisdom, decades of pain. They're technically skilled, but they're broke because their framework is broken. I remember my dad telling me this. He said, son, true wisdom is knowing that you know nothing. The older I get, the more I understand it. The older I get, the less I know. The older I get, the more crazy I think. The first phase of the Dunning-Kruger study is that of overconfidence. And I see it all the time. I've been there. It hurts. Until we swallow our pride and say, man, there's got to be a better way to do this. We're going to continue to hit our head up against the wall. Once I discovered the fact that I am willing to trade my infinite for my finite, my life changed. Once I reached the point where I said, you know what, money is just easy. If I trade this money to buy back my time, if I trade this money to accelerate my growth, then something's going to move in a different direction. Whenever I made that decision at around about 36, my life forever changed. So let me ask you a simple question right now. Phase one, are you overconfident in your abilities? Are you overconfident in your knowledge? Have you had some success? Man, I'm happy for you. Be careful. Pride comes before destruction. What's fascinating to me is the second phase of this Dunning-Kruger study is this, the valley of despair. The wealthiest owners I know, the wealthiest owners that I've worked with aren't experts at everything. They're experts at finding experts. Just last week, someone said, Justin, you don't have an MBA. Why did you never get an MBA? And I said, because I can hire them. I can hire people with MBAs. I've got 3 on the team right now. They're smart people. I am an expert at finding experts. That's what I've noticed about Deca-Millionaires. They relinquish control. They don't have to be the best at everything. They value a framework, not a credential. Hear me on this, friends, especially using you in the professional space. They don't need another credential. You see, certifications don't scale. Systems do. Hear me on this. Another credential is not going to change your life. It's not until you release that knowledge point and build systems that you actually obtain freedom. What I've noticed about Deca-Millionaires is they value frameworks, not credentials. And then number 2 is they leverage experts instead of posturing. I've said a few times that I've spent over $100,000 on coaching. And I wish you could see the ugly comments on social media from trolls at home eating Cheetos in their mama's babies and never done anything. It's interesting. The most wealthy person I know actually watches my social media feed. He's worth over $1 billion. The guy is a stud. And he says, Justin, keep going, dude. You got it. Keep going. Why? Because he's learned how to leverage experts. Wealthy Deca-Millionaires, we don't waste time pretending to know everything. We buy the wisdom that we don't have. Just a second ago, someone said, Justin, can you get me a transcript of this particular podcast? I'm like, I don't know how to do that. What? You don't know how to do it? No, my team does it. I know how to get in the microphone, get in front of the camera, and record a podcast. He goes, Well, you should know how to do that. No, I shouldn't. No, I shouldn't. What led me to Deca-Millionaire status is by using other people's skill sets. I can hire them. That is a difference in thinking. The vast majority of business owners out there, especially you in the white collar world, you want to get more and more and more credentials. Even Warren Buffett brings in specialists instead of micromanaging. The third thing I noticed about Deca-Millionaires is they think in terms of stewardship, not self-image. Friends, I got to tell you, the valley of despair, whenever you realize that you don't have to have all the knowledge and you don't have to be the person who has to look good everywhere, you could be number 2. You could be number 3. You could be number 4. In fact, the most amount of money I've ever made is not when I'm number 1. It's whenever I'm number 2, 3, or 4. Why? Without counsel, plans fail. But with many advisors, there is safety or there's success. See, if I can get people around me who are smarter than me and I can let them look good, I don't care. I don't care what people think about me. Now, do I like to be judged? No. Do I like people to like me? Yeah. Do I like to walk into somebody and say, hey, Justin, how are you doing? Absolutely. It makes me feel good. But at the end of the day, guys, I've walked an entire life that most people won't walk. I've had the attacks on me that most people can't handle. And at the end of the day, I'm going to run my race. And I don't care who's with me because I know if I run my race, God's going to bless it. I don't care about looking smart, neither do most Deca-Millionaires. The other thing I noticed about Deca-Millionaires is this. Our acceleration is exponential. Exponential. We understand that the rule of 80-20. We understand that 80% of our output is consists of 20% of our input. What's interesting about Deca-Millionaire is that we spend 20% of the time hiring guides to capture 80% of the results. Hit me on this. The law of 80-20 works across everything. A Deca-Millionaire goes out and they hire somebody who has a proven system or proven framework in order to capture 80% of the result, not 100%, 80%. We grew up in the South, man. Love the South. Love my Southern heritage. South's going to rise again type attitude. That's just the way I was born and raised, and I feel that way oftentimes. We had this saying, the hog that roots alone ends up being hungry. Think about that. The hog, a pig, that roots alone ends up being hungry. What that means is that pigs, when they run in a pack and they root up together, they're going to find the sweet spot and they'll all eat. An old African proverb says, go fast, go along, go far, go together. The real path to Deca-Millionaire status, to wealth and freedom, isn't proving that you're an expert. It's the opposite. In that valley of despair, you're proving that you surrounded yourself with experts. That's where results come in. What's interesting on the Dunning-Kruger study is the conclusion of the study, and we'll put a picture up on the screen for you on this, and that is that there comes a point to where you become an expert. That point where you become an expert, you don't have to prove it anymore. It's amazing. It's so liberating. You see, at the beginning of it, there's this false confidence that begins with this shallow knowledge. You just get a credential, and now you feel like you have everything. Reality is you have very little knowledge. Then stages of life comes and it tests our knowledge and it pushes us down into the valley of despair and it humbles us saying, oh my goodness, we don't have the answers to this. This is usually about the junior or senior year of college. Then as you graduate and as you get a little time underneath your belt, you realize that, hey, you can be an expert. You can be an expert. You can get tutelage from somebody who's already achieved. Certified exit planning advisors and certified financial planners reach out to me all the time. They just passed their credential and they're so puffed up with knowledge. They have about an inch worth of knowledge a mile wide, but they have no real world experience. They've never been a business owner. They don't know what it's like to pay payroll. They don't know what it's like whenever something happens that totally devastates your business. They don't know what it's like to not go 6 months without a paycheck. And then they end up getting destitute. At some point, you're either on Mount Stupid or in the valley or an expert. Where are you today? Are you at the top of the mountain, Mount Stupid as I call it, shouting louder than ever, saying, look at me, look how much I know, look at this new credential, look at this new knowledge. Hey, I'm going out here in this area. Is that you? Or are you in the valley saying, oh, Lord, don't look at me. I don't know anything. I'm embarrassed at actually what I said before. I thought I knew something. Holy cow, I don't know anything. Or are you climbing the slope to where now you're able to guide those behind you? False confidence isolates. but humility accelerates every single time, friends. The reality is this: the lies we tell ourselves will often build up false confidence. I can do this myself. I can study this, but you can. I can read a podcast. I can read a book. I'll go to this conference and get this information. I'll buy this new credential and you can learn some more knowledge. It's that false confidence. It often isolates. But humility, whenever you reach out and say, man, I need some help. It accelerates. It's so much fun. You don't have to be the person who knows everything. It is so much fun working alongside experts who's been there, done that, who's had a proven framework. It is a blast. It is so liberating to sit back, follow a framework, watch your team execute, and enjoy the rewards thereof. Hey, are you tired of fighting the battle alone? Are you tired of it yet? Are you tired of lying to yourself? Find somebody with a proven framework that you respect, that can help you break through the resistance in front of you and help you achieve the freedom that you've been chasing. Hey, we'll talk to you next time.